For centuries, the galaxy believed Earth was nothing. A quiet, blue planet circling an average star, filled with creatures who fought among themselves but never looked outward for long. In the grand halls of the Galactic Council, the most powerful empires gathered to discuss threats across the stars. Massive insectoid Ketheri hissed through their armored jaws. The crystalline Voltheri gleamed like living statues. The reptilian Dravik coiled their heavy tails, their eyes glowing in the dim chamber. And yet, whenever the subject of Earth came up, they all laughed. Humans, one counselor sneered, his mandibles clicking. They fight each other with fire and metal. They are primitive animals. Another, her body shimmering with blue scales, hissed in agreement. They cannot even leave their small system. They are nothing. Let them burn each other with their crude weapons. They are no threat. Laughter rippled across the chamber, bouncing against the tall glass walls that looked out onto the stars. For the galaxy's rulers, Earth was a curiosity, not a danger. A backwater planet, filled with noise and war songs, destined to fade into silence. And for centuries, Earth seemed to prove them right. Their signals flickered faintly across the void, music, speeches, arguments, fragments of wars they could barely fight among themselves. But then, the silence grew. No more signals. No more noise. Earth went dark. The council was pleased. The humans had fallen back into silence, just as predicted. The galaxy moved on. Until the night the silence broke. It was during a grand diplomatic gathering in the council spire, a structure of crystal and light floating above the world of Orifel. Delegates argued about trade routes and border disputes, their many voices clashing in the air. Then, without warning, every screen in the chamber flickered. Every translation implant buzzed. A sound poured into the hall, low, strange, steady. A beat. A drum. Boom. 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 The aliens froze, confused. The sound was harsh, old, and heavy. It rose and fell in strange rhythm, not like the soft songs of the Avati, not like the high chimes of the Solari. It was rough, primal, alive. And beneath it ran a strange code, numbers, signals, patterns that no one could break. "Where's it coming from?" shouted the Ketheri delegate, his voice cracking with unease. The council's technicians answered at once, "Origin. Sol system. The silent world." Gasps filled the chamber. For centuries, Earth had sent nothing but quiet static. Now, out of nowhere, came this. The council members turned their many eyes to the great screen, where waveforms of the signal pulsed like a heartbeat. The oldest among them, the Voltheri elder with a body of glittering crystal, stood. His voice echoed softly. "Silence is never empty. It always hides something. You mocked them for centuries. What if they have only been waiting?" The laughter was gone. In its place was fear. The council moved quickly. They ordered a patrol from the Ketheri Empire to the Sol system. 7 warships, each the pride of their fleet, armed with cannons that could split asteroids in two. When the fleet crossed into the Sol system, the commanders expected a dead sky. But then their sensors caught something. A blip. Small. Human. The Ketheri captain leaned forward, his scaled claws tapping against the console. "There. The insect world has sent us a toy." The human ship appeared on their displays. It was nothing like the crude rockets in the archives. Its hull was dark, jagged, covered in faint golden lines that glowed like fire under the stars. It moved with purpose, cutting through space with a speed that defied everything the Ketheri understood. "Primitive," the captain repeated, but his voice lacked strength. The human ship turned. Its weapons came alive. The first burst of light was not a missile, not plasma, not anything the Ketheri had seen. It cut across the void with perfect precision, and a Ketheri cruiser vanished in a silent explosion of fire and broken metal. The remaining ships opened fire. Beams of energy lit the rift, filling space with violent storms. But the human vessel moved like a predator, sliding between shots, vanishing, reappearing, and striking with weapons that pierced shields as if they were paper. In minutes, 5 of the mighty Ketheri ships were gone. The last 2 tried to flee. Engines roared, drives burning as they turned away from the battle. But the human ship did not pursue. It simply drifted into the shadows again. Then the council's channels filled with a voice. Calm. Human. This is not silence. This is the first whisper. Tell your masters, Earth remembers. Earth is awake. And then the line went dead. When the survivors returned to the council, their ships were torn and burning, their crews broken and silent. The story they carried spread across the galaxy like wildfire. In every port, in every home, whispers grew louder. The humans are not silent. Their ships move like shadows. They knew where to strike. For the first time in living memory, the galaxy's most powerful empires felt something they had not known for centuries. Fear. And far away, hidden in the black, the starbound armada continued to stir. Ancient engines hummed, battleships the size of mountains turned toward the light. Humanity's patience had ended. The silence was gone. The whispers had begun. The Ketheri fleet cut through the void like a swarm of blades. 7 warships, sleek and brutal, slid toward the Sol system. Their mission was simple: prove to the galaxy that Earth was still weak. Crush the silent world before its strange whispers spread further. On the bridge of the flagship Iron Fang, Captain Vaith watched the screens with a cruel smile. 1 planet, still chained to its home star, he hissed. 1 ship, maybe 2. We will burn them in minutes. The council will see the truth. But then, a voice crackled across the comms. Not Ketheri. Not any empire. Human. It spoke in plain words, calm and steady. You have come to test our silence. You will not return. The Ketheri crew laughed. 1 ship could not stand against 7. Their sensors confirmed only a single contact, drifting near the far edge of the system. The encounter. The alien fleet approached the signal. At first, it looked like an old Terran vessel, a relic of steel and rivets. But as they came closer, the truth emerged. The ship's surface shimmered with golden lines of light, as if the very stars had left their fire upon it. The hull was dark, shaped like a blade, sharp and terrible. Impossible, 1 officer whispered. This is no design in our records. The human ship turned, slow but precise, aligning its nose directly toward the fleet. Its engines glowed like a burning sun. Captain Vaith gave the order without hesitation. All ships, fire. Fire and silence. 7 beams of energy tore through the darkness, converging on the lone human vessel. The void lit up with blinding light. For a heartbeat, it seemed Earth's silence would return. But the beams never struck. The human ship flickered. One moment it was there, the next it was gone, then it reappeared behind the nearest Ketheri cruiser. A single lance of white fire burst from its hull, slicing the cruiser in 2. The ship split apart silently, its crew lost in an instant. Shields! Shields, the Ketheri captain roared, but their defenses meant nothing. The human weapons pierced them as if they were made of glass. Another cruiser shattered. Then another. In minutes, 5 ships were gone. The Ketheri fleet, once so proud, was now a cloud of burning wreckage. The whisper grows. As the 2 remaining ships turned to flee, the human vessel drifted back into the darkness. No pursuit. No gloating. Only silence. Then, once again, the voice filled every channel. This is not silence. This is the first whisper. Tell your council. Tell them we are awake. The aliens fled. Behind them, the human ship remained still, its golden lines glowing like embers in the void. The council's panic. When the survivors limped back to the council, the chamber erupted. The Ketheri captain, scarred and broken, threw fragments of his shattered ship onto the council floor. 7 of our warships, he shouted, defeated by 1 human craft. They knew where to strike. They knew our weaknesses. This is no accident. The silent world has been preparing for war. The Atron delegate trembled, their crystal skin flickering with pale light. We cannot fight them. We must speak. We must make peace before it is too late. Peace, another voice hissed. Peace with insects? The chamber filled with noise, roars, shrieks, mechanical tones. Old alliances cracked. Empires that once trusted each other now shouted across the floor, each accusing the other of helping the humans rise. The Volturi elder stood again. His crystal body caught the light, scattering it across the hall. His voice was calm, but his words cut sharper than any blade. Did I not warn you? He asked. Silence is not weakness. Silence is preparation. The humans are no myth, no children with fire. They are the storm on the horizon. And we are blind to its size. No one laughed this time. The watching shadow. Back on Earth, far from the chaos of the Council, the human commanders stood in a vast underground chamber. Around them glowed ancient screens, showing every system where their fleets now stirred. Massive warships, some older than the Council itself, were waking from their long sleep. A commander spoke, his voice low. They think they saw a lone ship. They think the storm is only beginning. They still do not understand. Another officer, her eyes sharp with fire, nodded. Good. Let them fear. Fear will do more damage than our weapons ever could. On the screens, the starbound armada assembled. Hundreds of ships. Thousands, maybe. Carriers, cruisers, destroyers, and something even larger, shadows that stretched across the stars. Ships the size of moons. Ships that should not exist. Ships that made the strongest empires look small. The silent oath. The human commander returned to the screen, speaking not just to the Council, but to the entire galaxy. His voice was steady, every word deliberate. You mocked us. You thought us weak. You called us silent. But silence was our shield. Silence was our weapon. We are humanity. And the stars will remember our name. The transmission ended. The Council chamber sat in silence, every voice gone, every eye filled with fear. Across the galaxy, the first chapter of a new legend began. The Council chambers had fallen into uneasy silence after the human broadcast. But outside, in the vastness of the galaxy, silence no longer existed. The whispers spread. It began on the mining moons of Velthor 9. Workers tuned their radios to hear routine safety codes. Instead, they heard the low thrum of ancient drums, the same rhythm that had shaken the Council chamber. The sound made their skin crawl, as if invisible hands beat against their hearts. One miner dropped his tool, whispering to his partner, "The humans are singing again." Within hours, the entire station was whispering too. The same happened on the trade routes of the Renari Syndicate. Merchant ships passing through deep space reported strange encounters. At first, it was only flickers of light, like sparks along the horizon of the void. Then, out of nowhere, vast shadows glided past them, massive shapes that blotted out the stars. No records matched these ships. No technology explained their silence. And then came the signal, faint but clear. We are awake. The galaxy was listening. Whispers in the Council. Inside the Council spire, panic grew into chaos. Delegates shouted accusations, each word echoing across the crystal chamber. The Ketheri pounded their armored fists. Strike now! Every moment we wait, their numbers grow. They are gathering in the shadows. The Atron Union, usually calm, shook with fear. We already lost 30 ships. 30! Against one hidden fleet. If more awaken, we are finished. The reptilian Dravik coiled tighter around their seats. Perhaps the humans do not seek war. Perhaps they only want us to fear them. But another delegate hissed, and is fear not already victory? The argument swelled until the Volturi elder rose. His crystal body glimmered in the chamber's light, casting 1,000 reflections across the floor. He raised his hand, and slowly the noise fell silent. "Listen," the elder whispered. His voice was soft, but it carried through the chamber like thunder. "For ages you mocked them. You called them myths, children, insects. But they have not been silent. They have been listening, studying, waiting. Now they whisper so that all may hear. The question is not whether they are dangerous. The question is, how much have they hidden from us?" The words froze the chamber. None could answer. The second sight. Far from the Council's homeworld, another fleet ventured into the Zorith expanse, a dead region of collapsed stars and shattered worlds. 30 ships strong, they believed they could do what the Ketheri could not. As they entered the dark system, their scanners caught a signal. Not from a planet. From beneath the surface of a lifeless moon. Energy levels spiked, then surged. The moon cracked open. From beneath the rock rose a ship so massive that the alien captains could not measure it. It was the size of a world, its surface covered in golden plating that reflected distant starlight. Its engines lit up with a fire that shook the void. "This is impossible," whispered one alien officer. "That vessel, it is older than our empire." The giant ship spoke. The same human voice, calm as ever, filled every cockpit and every bridge. "This is not silence. This is the awakening." The human supercarrier opened fire. Lances of pure energy sliced through space. The alien fleet, once so confident, scattered like insects before a storm. But there was nowhere to run. Every maneuver, every tactic, every desperate turn had already been studied by the humans. Within minutes, the 30 ships were gone. The wreckage floated like burning embers in the void. The human ship did not chase survivors. It only hovered, silent and unshaken, its golden hull gleaming. Fear becomes legend. The fragments of that battle reached the Council in broken transmissions. Images of the golden giant. Screams cut short. A single line of human speech, repeated again and again. The awakening has begun. The galaxy erupted in fear. Civilizations locked their borders. Trade routes collapsed. Armies refused to march into human space. The whispers of the humans were now a storm of rumors. In the Council spire, leaders trembled. Some shouted for surrender. Others still demanded war, but their voices shook. The Voltheri elder stood once again, his crystal skin glowing faintly. The humans have spoken twice. First the whisper. Now the awakening. If you force their hand again, the next word will not be a warning. It will be fire. But fear does strange things. Instead of calming, the Council fractured further. Some empires prepared to kneel. Others prepared to die. And through it all, humanity remained silent once more. Silent, but not absent. Silent, but awake. The final image. Far beyond the Council's reach, the Starbound Armada gathered. Hundreds of ships formed into vast formations, each one glowing with a golden light. Their hulls were black as the void, their engines bright as the sun. From a distance, they looked like a storm of stars, moving, living, unstoppable. Inside the great human command ship, the scarred commander stood at the center of the bridge. Around him, officers watched the galaxy's frightened responses. Worlds pleading for peace. Empires arming themselves. The Council trembling. The commander spoke softly, his voice filled with calm steel. Let them whisper. Soon, they will do more than whisper. Soon, they will beg. His words hung heavy in the air. No one replied. No one needed to. Beyond the black glass of the command deck, the storm of Starbound gathered strength, its ships waiting in silence. The humans had spoken once. They had whispered twice. The galaxy was listening. The storm was ready to break. The universe held its breath. The silence that once wrapped Earth like a shroud had cracked wide open. First came the whispers, ancient songs hidden in radio noise. Then came the lone cruiser, a black blade that carved through 7 Ketheri warships like paper. Then came the shadow of a colossal ship rising from a dead moon in the Zorith expanse, a war machine so large it looked like a drifting planet. Now, the stars themselves began to stir. Across forgotten systems, old satellites blinked awake. Dead colonies powered up, their lights burning through centuries of dust and ruin. In asteroid belts, engines buried beneath rock and ice hummed with new life. Entire fleets, cloaked in silence, revealed themselves. These were not the fragile vessels the Council remembered from their ancient records. They were something else, something older, darker, and far more powerful. Rumors of ghost fleets. In the mining stations of the Valor, workers refused to board their ships. They whispered of ghost fleets drifting out of the dark, fleets with hulls of gold and eyes of fire. On the planet Shalvek, children drew pictures of humans standing tall against the galaxy's great empires. The Council tried to silence the panic, but the fear only grew. One by one, frightened voices filled the Council chamber. "We must stop them before they reach us," shouted the Ketheri, their scales rattling. "No," replied a delegate from the Lurathi. "If we attack, we will face what the Andari fleet faced. Total destruction." The Avati, beings of song and light, trembled. "Then what do we do? What do we tell our people when they ask who the humans are?" The Volthari elder rose once again. His crystal form glowed faintly, scattering light across the dome. His voice, low and heavy, silenced the hall. "Do you not see?" he said. "The humans were never silent because they were weak. They were silent because they were building. Their patience was not fear. It was preparation. The rising giants." In the shadow of a black hole, an alien science vessel recorded something impossible. A fleet of human ships emerged, vast and ancient. Each vessel was a floating fortress, with golden armor plates that shimmered against the darkness. They carried weapons no one had ever seen before, huge cannons that pulsed with energy like captured suns, and drones that swirled around them like living storms. The scientists tried to calculate how long these ships had been hidden. The answer chilled them: centuries. Some of the designs were older than the Council itself. Which meant only one thing. Humanity had been preparing in silence while the galaxy laughed at them. One scientist whispered, almost in awe, "They built these before we even knew they existed." The human fleet did not attack. It only drifted forward, slowly, deliberately, as if daring anyone to challenge it. And then, once again, the galaxy's channels came alive with a voice. "This is not silence. This is the awakening." The words echoed across every corner of known space. The Council's fracture. Back on Orithel, the Council could no longer hide the truth. Too many eyes had seen the storm rising. Too many survivors had carried back tales of human fire. The Ketheri slammed their claws on the table, demanding war. The Avati sang of peace, their voices trembling with fear. The Renari accused the Dravik of hiding human allies. The Dravik hissed back, their tails lashing against the polished floor. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Council was not united. They were broken, shouting, snarling, fighting among themselves. The Volthari elder watched in silence, his crystal body glowing softly. Finally, he raised a hand. "Hear me," he said. "You think in terms of numbers, ships, weapons, fleets. The humans do not. They think in terms of patience. They think in terms of war that lasts centuries. They have studied us, every empire, every weakness. They will not strike blindly. They will strike where it hurts." A silence followed. The counselors looked at one another with fear in their eyes. For once, no one laughed. Beneath Earth's mountains. On Earth, deep below the crust, the human commanders gathered in a vast chamber. Screens surrounded them, each showing a different part of the galaxy, alien fleets in chaos, colonies preparing for war, empires falling into fear. The scarred commander stood at the center, his hands behind his back. His voice was calm, steady, heavy with patience. "They whisper about us now," he said. "They fear us, yet they do not understand. Let them argue. Let them doubt. The storm is not coming, it is already here. On the screens, the Starbound armada assembled. Hundreds of ships joined together. Carriers the size of mountains, cruisers shaped like blades, dreadnoughts that burned brighter than stars. They aligned in silence, a wall of fire and steel spreading across the galaxy. The silence before the storm. In the council chamber, one final message arrived. The screen flickered, and the human commander appeared once more. You mocked us. You thought we were myths. You thought silence was weakness. But silence was our weapon. Silence was our shield. Now the awakening is here. And this is only the beginning. The screen went black. No one moved. No one spoke. The council chamber, once filled with laughter, was drowned in silence. A silence that no longer meant weakness. A silence that meant a storm was waiting. The council spire had always been a place of order. Its crystal towers touched the clouds of Orithel, glowing with soft light, a symbol of unity among hundreds of empires. But tonight, that light flickered. Inside the chamber, chaos roared. The Ketheri delegates hissed and slammed their claws against the table. The Dravik coiled their long tails in anger. The Avati sang high notes that trembled with fear. Words clashed like weapons in the air. No one could agree. The news of the Andari fleet's destruction had spread across the stars. 1,000 ships, gone in hours. A single human supercarrier, ancient, massive, unstoppable, had burned them all into wreckage. No empire could deny it now. The humans were awake. The shattered order. Counselor Vaith of the Ketheri roared, "Strike now. Gather every fleet we have. Burn Earth before they rise any further." His claws scraped sparks against the table, his eyes burning with rage. The Renari leader, a tall figure of silver skin, raised a trembling hand. "You do not understand. The humans were silent for centuries. Yet they built fleets larger than ours, hidden in the dark. How many more do they have? 10? 100? 1,000? Another voice echoed across the chamber. "If they could destroy 1,000 ships without loss, what chance do we have if they come for us?" Fear was poison, spreading through the chamber, weakening every alliance that had held for generations. Old enemies began to argue again, accusing each other of helping the humans rise in secret. The Voltheri elder rose. His crystalline body glowed in the chamber's light, scattering reflections across the floor. His voice was soft, but it carried weight. "You still do not see," he said. "This is not about numbers. This is about patience. For centuries, the humans have studied us. They know our strengths. They know our weaknesses. You laughed at their silence, but silence was their weapon. And now, that silence is broken." The chamber fell into a heavy stillness. For the first time, no one laughed. A galaxy in fear. While the council argued, the galaxy outside was falling apart. On the trade lanes of the Nithris cluster, merchants abandoned their ships, refusing to cross near human space. On the frozen moons of the Ulnari, workers carved human symbols into the ice and prayed for protection. In the war forges of the Ketheri, soldiers trained twice as hard, whispering of a storm that no shield could block. The whispers of humanity had become a fire in the minds of the galaxy. Nobody knew the size of the human fleets. Nobody knew where they were hiding. Nobody knew if Earth had allies or weapons older than the Council itself. And the humans did nothing to stop the rumors. They only watched. The second message. One by one, the lights in the council chamber dimmed. A black screen appeared above the circle of leaders. The whispers returned, louder than before, beating like war drums. Then the static cleared, and the human commander appeared once again. His face was sharp, scarred, unshaken. His eyes burned with a cold fire. When he spoke, the words struck like iron. "You gathered your fleets. You came to silence us. You failed." The counselors froze in their seats. "For centuries, you watched us. You laughed at our silence. You called us myths. But we do not forget. We do not forgive. We do not kneel. You will not mock us again. Behind him, the camera widened. The starbound armada filled the screen. Hundreds of ships, black, sharp, alive with golden light. Carriers the size of cities. Destroyers like shadows. Their engines burn like suns, their weapons humming with quiet fury. The commander's voice grew colder. We will not strike first. We will not invade your worlds. But know this, we are here. We are awake. And from this day forward, the stars will carry our name. Humanity. The screen went dark. The fracture widens. The silence in the chamber was worse than the laughter had been. No one dared speak at first. Finally, the Ketharis slammed their claws again, but even their roar was weak. Then we are already lost, the Atron whispered. The Volthari elder turned his glowing face toward the council. You wanted silence. You wanted a world you could mock. Instead, you have awakened a storm older than your empires. You fear their fleets. But the true danger is the story they now carry. Stories spread faster than light. Stories unite the weak and break the strong. And this story has already begun. The chamber remained in shadow. No one argued. No one laughed. Across the galaxy, the whispers grew louder. They reached every corner, every world, every station. Some heard songs of war. Some heard voices telling them to rise. And some heard the words that echoed like thunder in the void. When you mocked us, you gave us our name. Humanity. Remember it well. The storm was no longer just waiting. It was building. And the stars, for the first time in centuries, felt small. The Andari Rift was a graveyard of stars. Once, it had been a vibrant cluster, home to billions. Now, only husks of shattered planets circled the dim light of a dying sun. It was here the Galactic Council chose to make their stand. 1,000 warships gathered in the darkness. Every empire had sent its finest. Massive Kethari dreadnoughts bristled with plasma cannons. The sleek cruisers of the Avati gleamed like shards of ice. The Renari Syndicate brought carriers filled with fighters. Even the Silent Zor, who had not joined a war in 500 years, unveiled their heavy war barges. The Council called this fleet the Great Unity. They believed that together, no enemy could stand against them. Their leaders broadcast speeches across the galaxy. We will strike Earth now. We will prove that the silent world is nothing but dust beneath our feet. But in the rift's endless dark, something was already waiting. The first gates open. As the 1,000 ships aligned their weapons, the void split open. Lines of golden fire carved across the black sky, bending space itself. Rifts opened, one after another, glowing brighter than the dying sun. From the first rift, a ship emerged. Then another. Then 10. Then hundreds. They were unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Their hulls were black as night, lined with veins of molten gold that pulsed like beating hearts. Some were sleek cruisers shaped like blades. Others were vast carriers, each large enough to hold cities within. And above them all loomed titans, warships the size of moons, ancient and terrible, their silhouettes blocking out entire constellations. The Great Unity froze. 1,000 ships stared into the storm. And then the voice returned. Calm. Cold. You gathered your strength. You brought your fire. Now witness ours. This is not silence. This is the storm of Starbound. The battle ignites. The Kethari struck first, hurling their plasma lances across the void. The blasts tore forward like rivers of molten light, enough to burn through continents. But the human ships moved like shadows, bending space, sliding between the fire as if the weapons struck only air. Then the humans answered. A single supercarrier, glowing with golden veins, unleashed a wave of drones. Thousands of small ships poured out like sparks from a forge, each one armed with weapons far beyond Council science. They swarmed the Kethari ships, tearing through their armor with silent precision. Explosions lit the rift. The first line of the Council's fleet was gone in seconds. The weight of knowledge. On the bridge of the Dravik war barge Scalebreaker, Commander Hreth watched in horror as human weapons sliced through his allies. His ship's shields flared bright, then collapsed under the pressure of a single beam. "They know!" Hreth roared. "They know our frequencies. They know our armor." He was right. Every maneuver the Council fleet made, the humans countered as if they had studied it for centuries. Their warships moved in perfect coordination, packs of smaller vessels circling the massive golden carriers like wolves guarding their den. The Council had come to crush a whisper. Instead, they had awakened a storm that had been waiting in silence for generations. The drowning of a fleet. Hours passed like moments. The Council threw everything they had into the fight, thousands of missiles, millions of plasma rounds, energy beams that could melt moons. Yet every strike was wasted. The humans did not fight like the Council. They fought like predators. They struck where shields were weakest, where armor was thinnest, where panic was strongest. They did not waste shots. They did not retreat. When the smoke cleared, the once proud Great Unity was gone. 1,000 ships reduced to wreckage, drifting silently in the dark. A few survivors fled, their engines burning bright as they vanished into jump corridors. And again, the human voice filled every channel. "We did not come to conquer. We did not come to beg. We came to be remembered. We are the storm you feared. We are humanity." The transmission ended. Silence fell again. The galaxy shakes. The survivors carried their stories back to their empires. Everywhere they went, they spread the same message: the humans were awake, and their fleets were unstoppable. On the crystal worlds of the Volturi, people whispered that the humans were ancient gods returning to claim vengeance. On the fiery forges of the Ketheri, warriors sharpened their blades, but their eyes were filled with fear. On the peaceful Avati worlds, citizens prayed their songs of harmony would reach Earth before the storm did. The galaxy had mocked Earth for centuries. Now every empire was forced to speak the name they once ignored. Humanity. Back on Earth. Far below the mountains, the human commanders watched the rift. The screen showed the wreckage of the Council's fleet drifting in silence. The scarred commander stood at the center of the chamber, his eyes glowing with a quiet fire. His voice was steady, calm, and cold. "They thought we were silent," he said. "They thought we were weak. But we have waited long enough. The storm has begun, and the galaxy will never forget our name." Around him, the officers nodded. Beyond the planet, the starbound armada floated in perfect formation. Hundreds of ships. Thousands of voices. Silent, but ready. The silence was gone. The whispers had become fire. And now, the storm of humanity spread across the stars. The galaxy had not known true silence in ages. Now, silence returned, but it was not peace. It was the silence of fear. The wreckage of the Council's grand fleet drifted like broken bones in the Andari Rift. Thousands of ships, once proud symbols of alien power, were now burning ruins. The survivors limped away, broken, their transmissions carrying the same story: one human armada destroyed us all. On 1,000 worlds, people huddled in their homes, staring at the sky. The words of the human commander still rang in their ears. "This is not conquest. This is not surrender. This is a story. Humanity is awake. And the stars will remember our name." The Council in ruins. The next Council gathering was not a debate, it was a battlefield. The Ketheri delegates hissed and roared, demanding vengeance. "We are warriors. We will not bow to insects. Better to burn in battle than live in shame." The Avati answered with trembling songs. "They are not insects. Did you not see? Their ships are larger than cities. Their weapons cut through our shields like air. If we fight again, none of us will survive." The Draviks slammed their tails against the floor. "Then what do you suggest? That we kneel to them as gods?" The word God sent a ripple through the chamber. It was a word many had already whispered in secret. Could the humans truly be something more than mortal? They had been silent for centuries, and yet had hidden fleets older than most empires. Ships the size of worlds. Weapons no one understood. The Volturi Elder rose once again. His crystal body glimmered as light bent across its surface. His voice was calm, steady, but filled with weight. "You do not see the truth," he said. "You still argue as if this is a war you can win or lose. But humanity has already won. Their silence shattered your unity. Their whispers have turned your people against you. Their fire has burned your fleets. And now, the storm they promised has come. They no longer fight for survival. They fight for memory. For a name written in the stars." The broadcast. The chamber's lights flickered. The floor vibrated. Every screen on Orithel came alive. From the smallest handheld device to the largest planetary display, a single image appeared. The human commander. His face was calm, but his eyes glowed with something deeper than anger. Something older than vengeance. Behind him, the starbound armada filled the black sky, 1,000 ships floating in silence. Golden veins pulsed across their hulls like the heartbeat of some ancient god. When he spoke, the galaxy trembled. "We were silent because you mocked us. We were silent because you thought us weak. But silence was never weakness. Silence was patience. Silence was the forge where legends are born." The voice grew louder, steady as the drums that now thundered in every ear. "You sent fleets to test us. They are gone. You thought yourselves eternal. You were wrong. From this day forward, the stars will speak of us. We are not your prey. We are not your myth. We are humanity. And these are the starbound tales." The screen went black. The galaxy trembles. On distant worlds, billions of beings sat frozen in front of glowing screens. Some wept. Some cheered. Some fell to their knees. In the markets of the Renari, traders threw down their goods, whispering, "The humans have returned." On the crystalline spires of the Volturi, children sang the human war drums, their voices echoing through crystal towers. On the battlefields of the Ketheri, proud warriors painted crude human symbols on their armor, as if to shield themselves from the storm they could not stop. Everywhere, the same truth spread: the galaxy had mocked Earth. Now, the stars would remember its name. The commander's oath. Beneath the mountains of Earth, the human commanders stood in silence. Before them stretched vast displays of the galaxy, every empire, every fleet, every system now lit with fear. The scarred commander raised his hand, pointing to the growing map of awakened fleets. "They will fight among themselves," he said. "They will tear each other apart, because they fear us more than they trust each other." A younger officer asked quietly, "And what do we do, sir?" The commander's eyes glowed like embers in the dark. His voice was calm, but it carried the weight of centuries. "We wait. We watch. And when the time is right," he paused, his gaze fixed on the stars. "We strike. Our story has only begun. The galaxy will learn our name, and it will echo forever." The final scene. Out in the black, the starbound armada shifted. 1,000 ships moved as one, engines burning, shadows stretching across the void. Their golden hulls caught the dying light of distant stars, turning darkness into dawn. The storm was ready. And as the galaxy watched in silence, the first chapter of humanity's legend was sealed. The silence was gone. The whispers had grown into fire. The storm had come. And from that storm, the starbound tales were born.